Alright, what's up guys? New deck profile today. We are doing Elemental Hero Neos or neo-spacians. Incredible deck. There's a lot of improvements that have been made since the last one. This is a very, very expensive and competitive version of the deck. Thankfully none of us are playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In real life, so you could just load it into your favorite online Yu-Gi-Oh! Version and just play it through that. But this will be very expensive, just to preface. Play 2 copies right off the bat of Elemental Hero Neos, just Neos. You only play 2 copies. You can recycle him with various cards. You can recycle him with either the Neo-Space connector, or you can recycle him with Next, so you don't actually have to play more than 2 copies of this. Yeah, 2 copies, good enough. You don't. He's not a brick in hand, but you'd rather not see him in hand. You'd rather see something else. Then we play 1 copy of Aquadolph, and these are all the neo-spacians. He's actually pretty decent because he can pop cards in your opponent's hand, which is pretty good to get rid of hand traps. 1 copy of Neo-Spacian Hummingbird, basically gains life points. Neo-Spacian Grand Mole, he's on the ban list and everything. This one basically just, it comes up actually sometimes. Sometimes you can, like if they have a Buster, Destruction Buster Sword equipped to one of their monsters, you can actually just attack with this and then bounce them both back, and then main phase 2 go into your Neo-Spacian plays or your extra deck, just in case they locked you out of it. So that card actually does come up. And then we've got Dark Neos. He just copies an effect. This one does not really come up all that much. But yeah, these are all of the Neo-Spacians that we're playing in the main deck. The only you don't have to play a lot of these because you can actually recycle them extremely easily. Like I said, with Next, with Neo-Space Connector, and with with Miracle Fusion, and with Contact Gate, you can recycle these extremely easily, so you really don't have to play more than what's here. You just do not have to. They're extremely recyclable, and yeah, that's pretty much it. You can recycle them fairly easily. Next we play, for more monsters, 3 copies of Neo-Space Connector. This card is extremely good. So on normal summon, it lets you special summon either a Neo-Spacian monster from your deck or a Neos, Elemental Hero Neos. And in like a warrior deck and outside of this, you would typically go for the Neo-Spacian and then pop a card into your opponent's hand. But actually in this version, more so you will go into the Neos, because Neos is harder to get out onto the field. So you'll get Neos, and then on top of that you contribute this monster and special summon a Neo-Spacian or Neos, Elemental Hero Neos, from your graveyard, which both effects are extremely good in this deck. Next we play 1 copy of Rainbow Dark Dragon. This card, the only reason we're playing it is just so we have access to one of the most insane fusions ever, which is the Rainbow Neos. And you don't actually have to summon it legitimately. You can actually just summon it by using the Neos fusion. So it's just a card it's basically like a brick in your deck. You don't actually have to ever summon this thing. Although it's a dark monster, technically, if they're playing, I don't know, there's really no way to summon it either way, but you just play the Dark Neos. We play Elemental Hero Honest Neos. We just play 1 copy. Sometimes it comes up, so kind of like it there. And then now let's go into some hand traps. We play 2 copies of Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. So this card's actually really good for the deck because it's basically like impermanence, because when they special summon a monster, you can negate its effect. So that effect is already good. But technically speaking, impermanence is better. But what's good about this one is that when they link that monster away, or if that monster leaves the field, you can burn them for the attack of that monster. So let's say they summon like a 2000 attack monster, and they link it away and they burn themselves for 2000. What's really cool is that since they burn themselves and there's now a life point difference, Elemental Hero Air Neos is now just a little bit stronger, so he basically gains 2000 when you summon him. It can help you really OTK. So I just found that in testing, this was actually better than impermanence. Next we play, and like I said, this is very competitive, like going second version of the deck. 3 copies of Nibiru. A lot of times you will Nibiru, and it doesn't matter. The great thing about this deck is it gets rid of things so easily, like non-targeting, and you can get rid of that token without any concern whatsoever. So you could just Nibiru them, and sometimes you can Nibiru them and they will have so many link like they'll have a bunch of small link monsters, and you'll summon like a Nibiru token that's tiny, and you can just attack over and win the game. And even if you don't, you can either You can either shuffle away the token, you can destroy the token, you can do so many different things, like it doesn't even matter. Getting rid of the token is not a problem. And then of course Air Neos gains attack for life point difference, so it doesn't even matter. But that is all of the monsters that we're playing in the main deck. Next, let's go to the spells. Play 3 copies of the most broken spell cards, fusion spell cards ever. Like, it's really, really good. Basically, it lets you fusion summon using from your, basically it lets you fusion summon a Elemental Hero Neos fusion monster, and you can actually use monsters from your deck, which is just disgusting. You can basically send from your deck, but it is the last summon that you can do in that turn. This is actually not once per turn. So, like, let's say you activate this and they activate, let's say you activate this and they activate Judgment. This is not once per turn, so you can just activate it again, activate another copy, and then do it again. So it's really good. It's really, really good for that. On top of that, if your opponent would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this from the graveyard or protect it. Or if your opponent, if your Neo Elemental Hero Neos fusion monster would shuffle itself into the deck, you can actually banish this and then keep it around if you wanted to. But most of the time, with the newer ones, you want that effect. That effect is really good. The shuffle away effect, whatever it's going to be. Then we play 3 copies of Convert Contact. This is one of, again, just a really, really good draw spell. It's very generic and it's not once per turn. So basically, this allows you, if you control no monsters, to send a neo-spacian from your hand and from your deck to the graveyard and draw 2. So it does so much setup, and it's such a great card with Next, which is the trap card. It's such a great card with Miracle Contact. It's such a great card with Contact Gate. It just has a lot of synergy with the deck. It's really, really good. So we play 3 copies of that. Then we play 3 copies of Miracle Contact. Miracle Contact basically lets you shuffle cards from your field, hand, and graveyard into the deck, and then you can basically summon one of the Elemental Hero Neos monsters, the fusion ones, from your extra deck just through that, ignoring summoning conditions, and then it basically sets it up so you have even more stuff back in your deck, and you can use Neos Fusion, and then you can just basically have 2 gigantic monsters and you win the game. We play 1 Contact Gate. Again, this is one of those like utility cards. You don't want to see it often, but seeing one here and there, especially later, like most of the time you'll break their board, but sometimes you'll play a little bit of a grind game. So this one's nice to see because you can basically, it lets you special summon neo-spacians from your deck by banishing neo-spacians, and then the second effect is you can banish this from your graveyard and then summon a neo-spacian that's banished, but you can only use one of those effects per turn. But both of them are fairly good. Alright, now one of the newer cards, Fusion Deployment. Very, very good card. Helps the deck immeasurably. Only because this allows you to reveal a fusion monster from your extra deck, and then basically you can reveal your fusion monster, and then you can special summon one of the required monsters on there, and then you're locked into fusion summons for that turn. But that doesn't even remotely matter, because almost all of the time the only thing that you're doing in this deck is fusion summoning. You almost never do anything else. You might link summon once, period. Like, you might link summon once, but most of the time you don't do anything but fusion summon in this deck. So basically it just lets you cheat out either a Neo-Spacian or a copy of Elemental Hero Neos. Either way, it just gives you a free monster on board that's going to help you contact fuse, or just help you overall. But definitely, this is a 100% a 3 of in the deck. It might as well be a staple. Might as well have it, like Neos in the name. Like, it's really that good in the deck. Then we play some new again. This is a going second deck. Some new cards. Triple Tactics Talents. This card is really good again, and this is really good in the going second deck. It's okay going first, but it's really good in going second deck because your opponent is almost guaranteed to activate some kind of monster effect because they've gone first, they've set up a board, and basically if they activate any monster effect, you can either draw 2 cards, take control of 1 monster, non-targeting, or look at your opponent's hand and then shuffle a card away. All 3 of those effects are really good. Most of the time, since you're going second, you will actually do that second effect, which is to take one of their monsters. And the reason that one is so good is because it can, again, you just need just a few monsters to OTK. You don't need a lot, you just need a few. Next we play 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. Again, this is going second deck. Like I've said, we need to basically put them through a lot of hell. But basically, Dark Ruler No More is really good in the deck because you can activate Dark Ruler No More, like let's say against an Adamantipator board, turn off their extra deck, turn off. You basically activate this against Adamantimators, turn off their entire field, and then you can go into Elemental Hero Nebula Neos, draw a bunch of cards, go to end phase. Nebula Neos will banish their entire field face down, and they can't respond with anything because you've Dark Ruler no more them. It's really, really good. It's almost another card that I would say is a staple in this deck. And you banish basically their whole field face down. They can't really recover because Adamantimators rely on their extra deck so heavily, and they really won't have the ability to grind it out because you've basically banished everything in their extra deck face down. So they won't really be able to recover. They really can't. Like, they might summon a few rocks here and there in defense mode, but you'll just wreck them the next turn, so it doesn't even matter. Next we play 2 copies of Lightning Storm. Again, this is just, again, going second. You don't play this because you want to destroy monsters. You play this because you want to destroy spells and trap cards. Spells and trap cards are really the only thing that can prevent this deck from doing anything. Like, let's say they have like some floodgate or something that might actually stop you. But for the most part, you know, even this, it's actually very difficult to stop the Neos deck once it gets even a little bit of traction. Then we play, for the trap cards, 2 copies of Next. I might even bump this up to 3. It's a really good card. Basically, if you control no cards, you can activate this from your hand, so during your turn or your opponent's, because it is a trap card, obviously. But it's really, really good. You can activate it from your hand if you control no cards. But basically you can special summon Neos. You can special summon neo-spacians and Elemental Hero Neos from your graveyard or hand. And the only stipulation is that their effects are negated, but their effects don't really matter, and then you're basically locked out of the extra deck except for fusion monsters, which is all you're basically going to do anyway. It doesn't even hurt you. But you can activate it from your hand, and it doesn't even matter, and it has one of the greatest artworks of all time. So that's next. Then we play 1 copy of Red Reboot just for just a little bit more back row hate, because it gets a little bit annoying when they activate a floodgate. You can just Red Reboot them and then OTK them, or Red Reboot them and then just banish their field, and then they lose. Next, the extra deck. We play, just organize it a little bit. We play 1 copy of, these are the ones you really go into. Elemental Hero Nebula Neos. This is one of my favorite ones. Basically, when you summon it, you get to draw equal to the amount of cards on the field. Already an amazing effect. Sometimes you draw 5-6 cards, and then when this shuffles itself into the deck at the end phase, you get to banish everything on the field face down. Beautiful. Then we play 1 copy of Rainbow Neos, which we can finally make. Basically, Rainbow Neos allows you to send a monster card and then shuffle all monster cards on the field into all monster cards your opponent controls into their deck, or you can send the spell or trap, shuffle all spells and traps your opponent controls into their deck, or you can send a card off the top of your deck and then shuffle away their entire graveyard. All 3 effects are really, really good. That's why you play Rainbow Neos. It's just an incredibly good card. You have access to it finally with Neos Fusion, but you really can't hard summon it with the contacting. 1 copy of Cosmo Neos. This card is really good because this card basically, once it hits the field, it's like your opponent can't do anything. You're done. You've won basically once this card hits the field. Its requirements are a little bit steep because it's Elemental Hero Neos and then any 3 neo-spacians with different names, but it's not really that big of a deal because you have Miracle Contact and Contact Gate, and you have a ton of ways to do it. You have tons of ways to do this. So basically, when this hits the field, your opponent can't respond with any card effects, and then for the rest of the turn, your opponent can't activate any card effects or face-up cards on the field. So they're basically done. Their turn is stunned off, and then you could just, after that, you can just do whatever you want, and they can't really respond to you. Next, we play 1 copy of Air Neos, Elemental Hero Elemental Hero Air Neos. Unfortunately, this card has just been eluding me, but this card is extremely good. It just basically gains attack equal to the difference in life points. So if you have higher life points, it gains attack basically equal to the difference, which is actually really good because you have stuff like Moonlit Chill, which will burn your opponent, and then you'll have your attacks, which will create a difference between you and your opponent. So you can attack with Cosmo Neos with 35, and then this basically gains 35, and then 25 plus 35, 6,000, game. So this card is basically what helps you finish off games. It's really important. They do need to reprint it sometime soon. We play 1 copy of Elemental Hero Magma Neos. This is the rest of them. Flare Neos, Storm Neos. This one has decent effects, I'd say. Dark Neos. Brave Neos. These are all just kind of the utility ones. You sometimes go into, you mostly just go into those first four, but you sometimes go into these Grand Neos and Aqua Neos. Then for the links, we don't play a lot of links. We play 2 copies of Verte Anaconda. This comes up sometimes. Basically, any 2 monsters will allow you to use the Neos Fusion from the deck. The only thing you have to be concerned with is that a lot of these effects actually lock you into the extra deck, so lock you into fusion summons only. So things like the fusion deployment, Neos Fusion will be your last summon, and one more card, and next will lock you into fusion summons. But it's really not like, when you do go into links, you basically want to go into this. Otherwise, you don't. Like, sometimes you'll have an awkward hand. For example, like, you'll have a bunch of going second cards, and you'll have, for example, like a copy of Neo-Space Connector. So you just normal summon Neo-Space Connector, go into Aqua Dolphin, pop a card in their hand, and then you can link both of them away for a predaplant, Verte, Anaconda, and then you can basically just go into a Neos Fusion. So it's like a nice, easy 2-card. Basically, one Neo-Space Connector will end on predaplant, Verte, Anaconda, and whatever Neos you want in your entire deck. Like, it's like a simple, quick 1-card combo, just in case you don't draw any of the other stuff. Like, if you have a whole hand of just like Nibiru and Triple Tactics and Dark Ruler No More, and like you just a full hand like that, you always have something you can do just if you summon 2 monsters. 1 copy of Borlo Dragon just for utility, and 1 Nightmare Phoenix, just because honestly I couldn't even think of anything to use. This you really just mostly use the Neos cards. But that is pretty much it. Thank you for watching, guys. This has been a pleasure to do, and have a terrific day.